What do Paul McCartney, George Martin and Johann Sebastian Bach all have in common? I'll let you know inside the video. Hey, James here from eBassGuitar, and I've got something totally different for you today. According to Mark Langis, who played bass for Celine Dion for well over 20 years and completed 3 world tours with her, these 3 musical giants, Paul McCartney, George Martin and Johann Sebastian Bach, deeply shaped how he approaches music and the bass guitar. I was fortunate enough to interview Mark a few months back in Canada and discovered he was a massive fan of the Beatles and Baroque music. That conversation gave me an idea. Could I take real-world musical concepts from the Bach cello suites and turn them into melodic bass lines using one of the most well-known chord sequences in pop music history? I studied Bach harmony back at school and also the cello suites when I was at music college. So I set myself a challenge to see what I could come up with. Just before we get going, I want you to know there's a completely free PDF with everything written out today in standard notation and tab. I'll put a link to that in the description below. Let's get going with the first concept. The line you've just heard there is inspired by the jig from the Bach cello suite. But first of all, let's talk about the chord sequence, because this is simply 2 bars of A to 2 bars of E to 2 bars of F sharp minor 7 to 2 bars of D. And this is one of the most popular chord sequences in pop music history. And also the backing track you're hearing here is in the time signature of 3/4, which is very common from the Bach era. So this first concept based on the jig is a 2-bar scalic idea. It starts with an upbeat note on the 5th and then goes to the octave, then drops down, goes up the scale, and then ends on the 5th at the end, like this. So you end up with this pattern. And again. Then we simply put that through the chord sequence. Like so, and then up to the D, F sharp minor rather. Then to get to the D there. Then I drop down to get the rest of the scale there. So that's concept number 1, built on a simple scale from the jig. Now let's move on to a concept from the prelude. And this is the pattern which brought the Bach cello suites into notoriety on the bass guitar. Let's hear what it sounds like. chances are you may have heard something like that before, because the Bach cello suites have been adapted by players such as Jaco Pastorius to work on the instrument, and the prelude is probably the most famous and well-known part of the Bach cello suites which bass guitar players play. This is the original bass line in 4, but what I've done here is I've simply removed a couple of notes so it works as a 3-beat repeated pattern or riff. So it sounds like this. And then we can just move it through the chord sequence. And with the phrasing, what I like to do is play with my thumb and then slide back like that. Which makes it just that little bit more lyrical and interesting. Here it is once again in context to the backing track. Now, we're halfway through the video and I've got a very quick favour to ask. I was fortunate enough to interview Mark Langis whilst I was in Canada touring with the Celine Dion Experience tribute show. This whole video was inspired by that conversation. Mark is one of the most quietly brilliant, under-the-radar bassists you'll ever come across. He's toured the world with Celine for 2 decades and played with artists like Barry White and Sheryl Crow and many, many more. But beyond the gigs, he's deeply musical, thoughtful, and very, very humble. The interview is linked in the description below. Please check it out. It's truly worth your time. And if you like what you discovered and you're not subscribed to the eBassGuitar YouTube channel, please hit the red subscribe button, which is somewhere around this video. That would mean the absolute world to me. So let's move on to concept number 3. This is from suite number 2 of the Bach cello suite, specifically bar 36. Let's hear what it sounds like in action. This is a brilliant driving 8th note pattern built on simple scales and arpeggios. So let's take this apart. It's a 2-bar pattern where the first bar is based on a simple scalic idea, crucially starting on the 3rd of the chord. Then the second bar goes into arpeggios. So let's take it apart. So the A chord, we start on the C sharp and go down the scale, then back up. Then we hit the arpeggios in the second bar, which gives us our full pattern. So again, it's this. So that's the 2 bars, then put it across the other 3 chords. For the E chord, then for the F sharp minor chord, then to the D chord. So once you've got this down and you want to take it to the next level, the next thing is to try and get some of the articulation in it. So there's an ebb and flow to each of the two bars. So the volume goes up and down as you go through the bar. Listen to it when I play it, and you'll hear what I mean. Baroque phrasing and articulation is an art in itself. Please do really have fun with it, exploring the different ebbs and flows you can put into each bar. Let's move on to our final concept, number 4. I really love this one. Check it out. So this is a simple 1-bar ostinato or repeated pattern taken from the jig from round about bar 214. It starts on the major 7th and goes to the root of the chord, or the octave rather, and we end up with this pattern running through the whole of each bar. So it's 7, 8, 6, 8, 5, 8. And the trick is to try and get it as smooth and legato as possible. If you're interested in the ideas of learning academic music, really forwarded by guys like Jeff Berlin, this is a great way of doing it because you need to adapt every single bar to work on every single chord. So it's an amazing way of learning harmony. So let's do it over the A chord. And then up to the E7 chord, starting on the dominant 7th on the 2nd finger. And then over the F sharp minor chord, starting on the 1st finger. Notice how you have to completely change your fingering pattern for that particular bar, and then down to the D, which is the same shape that we played over the A, but just on a different string. And then we're back to the A chord. Crucial thing with this is to always know what fingering you're starting each particular chord on, and then it will work. Take this part slowly and then speed it up. There is so much great musical content in it. So let's wrap up the lesson with just hearing that concept number 4 again. So guys, that's the end of this lesson. If you haven't already done so, remember to grab the free PDF with all 4 of these Bach-inspired examples, all written out in standard notation and tab. Slow them down, practice them, tweak them, make them your own. It's all there. Grab that PDF. And I want to hear from you. Does this idea work? Can you take Bach Baroque bass lines and get them to work over simple pop chord progressions and come up with new concepts? In my view, absolutely yes, but let me know in the comments below. So what I've shared in this lesson, I think is literally just the tip of the iceberg. I could probably create a whole YouTube channel based on extrapolating ideas from the Bach cello suites over different chord sequences. There is so much in there. So if you haven't already done so, make sure you check out the cello suite. From over 300 years ago, there's probably some of the finest bass lines and bass concepts ever written. So get stuck in and it will really dramatically improve your bass guitar playing. So that's the end of this lesson. If you've enjoyed it and you want to go deeper with these concepts, make sure you check out the Bass Lab Plus over at eBassGuitar.com. It's my step-by-step learning platform designed especially for beginner to intermediate players who want to take their playing to that advanced level. Whether you're just getting started or you're ready to take your playing onto that next stage, the Bass Lab Plus has everything you need. Structured courses, live training, backing tracks, and an amazingly supportive community of bass players just like you. Please take it for a test drive free, completely free for 14 days. I'll put a link in the description below so you can get going today.